Hi, I'm Peter Reinhardt, and welcome to the Johnson & Wales International Symposium on Bread. I'm coming to you from the Hance Auditorium in Charlotte, North Carolina, where we've held the last four bread symposiums, and as you can see, there's nobody here but me. And this is where we usually have it. The seats are all empty because this year, thanks to you, the symposium will be presented online, virtually, in our new presentation hall, which is where I will join you in just a minute. Thank you, and thanks for being part of our new virtual Johnson & Wales International Symposium on Bread, presented by Puratos. Welcome again. Throughout the entire symposium, I'll be thanking our generous sponsors over and over again, and ask that you do as well by visiting their booths and pavilions in the exhibitor hall. There you will see lots of bonus content, and you can also make appointments to meet with the folks from these companies that serve our baking community so well. Our presenting sponsor is Puratos, who has partnered with us from the very beginning for all of our symposiums. And it is their support that helped us get this one-of-a-kind gathering of thought leaders off the ground. Please also visit our fabulous flour and milling sponsors, Ardent Mills, Lindley Mills, and Central Milling. Thank you also to our equipment sponsors, the WP Bakery Group and Allied Bakery and Food Service Equipment. And thank you also to our specialty food product companies, Probiotine, Fire Within, Big Green Egg, and Mock Mill. Please check out all of their booths to learn about their wonderful and unique products. And also thanks to our media sponsors, Cook's Country, The Local Palate, the James Beard Foundation, and the Bread Bakers Guild of America. You'll be hearing more about all of them throughout the entire series of presentations. So again, thank you to all our sponsors. At the end of today's presentation, you will also see our credit scroll, thanking all of the people behind the scenes who made this event possible, including our production and technical partner, Ganoid Communications, our creative team at Gumbo Marketing, and the many folks at Johnson & Wales University, our hosts for this, our fourth annual gathering. So stick around if you will. But now it's time to get things rolling with today's presentation, so let's go live. And once again, welcome to the Johnson & Wales International Symposium on Bread, presented by Puratos. And we're live. Hopefully my lips and the sound is synchronized this time. It looks like our pre-recorded welcoming tapes were a little bit out of sync. I noticed that. I think it was worse today than I've seen before, so I'm not sure if that's just because we've shown them so many times. Maybe we have to make a new one. But I want to welcome everybody this is Demo Wednesday, which is always the fun day where we get to learn how to make something new. And today we've got a wonderful guest today, Chef Alon Shaya, who you can read all about him in the bio section. Of course, I'm not going to spend any time talking about that. But in a second, I want to turn it over to him because he's going to be actually doing some cooking for us. And I see that he's outside, I think, right now at his grill. But before we do, a couple reminders, as always. Monday, we are going to spin the wheel and give another prize, another bread knife to somebody. And if you haven't yet visited all the sponsor booths to become eligible, please do so. Just drop in, sign their guest book, leave a note if you would like to. They'd love to hear from you. And when you get all 10 books signed, your name goes up on the wheel. We'll spin it and we'll give away another knife on Monday. And then next week, the whole week will be covered, and this is the first time the whole symposium that we have one person doing both the Monday and Wednesday sessions. Guy Frankel who is also known on the on social media as Seor, which means sourdough in Hebrew. Seor will be doing a presentation on Monday on bread couture, which he's going to explore just how far we can push the limits of bread. If people are spending, the way he phrased it to me, if they're willing to spend $10 to $12 for a loaf, will they be willing to spend $80 or $100 if we make the loaf worth that much? And how do we do that? Or is that too big a reach? We'll see. We'll find out on Monday. And then on Wednesday, he's going to be back to show some creative stenciling techniques, but also he's adding into that presentation shaping, some creative dough shaping techniques as well. So for those of you who've been wondering about the shaping side of things, we may be able to pick up a few new tips from him next Wednesday. But now it's this Wednesday, and we have Alon Shaya. Alon, can you hear me? I want to get ready to turn this over to you. So I'm not sure if you're able to hear me or not. My screen is frozen. Are you there? Let's see.
It seems his net is slow. We are not, his screen is frozen, seems.
Yeah, he probably will have to log back in, which means I get to talk somewhere. I see, yeah, his screen is like doing what mine does. Sometimes it's going in slow motion. Can we get a message to him, Germit, to maybe to log out and log back in? He's talking.
Yeah, he can. He's on mute. Let me try to unmute him.
Oh, he's going to try to log back in.
Yep.
So while we wait, we'll find out where he's coming to us from. I know that his famous restaurant, the restaurant that's named Shaya, that won all the awards, is in New Orleans, and hopefully some of you who are watching today have been there. Alon has been moving around a lot, so I'm not sure exactly where he'll be coming to us from today, but it looks like he's standing outside, and we'll hear all about it when he comes back on. But what he's done at Shaya, and it sort of was the start of a big trend nationwide, is essentially reinvented and represented foods of the Middle East, of Israel, of the Mediterranean region, but brought into sort of contemporary white tablecloth, destination restaurant setting. So there he is. Can you hear me now?
Hi, I can hear you, Peter. Can you hear me?
I can hear you. Perfect. All right.
Oh, good. Awesome. Thank you. So sorry about that.
That's all right. We've been having, this is real live TV, so.
Yeah, I dropped the iPad in the big green egg and it stopped working for some reason. I couldn't figure out why. But I think we're back on track now.
Did your iPad puff up like a pita bread?
Oh yeah, you should have seen the pocket in that thing. All
right.
kinds of microchips in there.
Well,
I appreciate it, Peter.
All right. Well, Lon, I'm going to turn this over to you. I'm just going to turn this over to you, and I'll
thank you.
And viewers who are watching, if you want to ask any questions, go ahead and just write them in on the Q&A. I'll monitor them, and if they're relevant to the moment, I'll throw them to Alon, and otherwise we'll save them till the end.
Yep.
And we'll just see where it goes.
I'd love to hear.
Right. So again, you froze again. So we're having a little connectivity issue, but can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Okay, you're kind of going in and
Am
out.
I present?
It's kind of stop and start. And maybe the camera is
Start. It's
of course none of this happens.
That's right.
Right. Well, it seems
like it's cutting out.
It's still freezing intermittently. Yeah, it's like you get one or two lines in, and then the frame freezes. You want to try one more?
We're gonna work on the internet.
There seems to be internet issue.
We have
Still Still not happening. You may have to log out and log back in, and if you have to reboot, which I've done, there have been times when I've just had to reboot and start over, which takes a few minutes. And if
we just
no.
Or maybe, Alon, if you can hear, can you try to change some device, maybe some other mobile, maybe some other device if you can connect? Oh, it's disconnected.
Okay, it sounds like he's gonna log back in.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for hanging in there with us, folks. So anyway, when he brought this idea out and presented it in his restaurant in New Orleans, it really made a big splash, and won a James Beard Award. He won all sorts of national and international recognition for what he was doing, which to many people in this category now, we're familiar with it. And some of you who are watching even now may have been to other restaurants that are following along the same path. We have a very nice one right here in Charlotte that we met Shai Farjan a couple of weeks ago, and his restaurant is similar in Philadelphia. There's Zahav, which last year won the Restaurant of the Year award from the James Beard Society. So the style is hot. It's hot, and of course, it's very similar to Lebanese food and to Middle Eastern food in general. Even there's a little bit of Greek. There's a little bit, every culture in that region has a take on this style of food. But in the last couple of years, the Israeli sort of approach has gained a lot of traction, and we'll talk about that maybe in the either in your questions or when we get into our after party. We can talk a little bit about sort of this as a trend and where we think it's all going to be going. But still, looks like he's trying to get back on. Oh, I see a video. It's still okay. The video is working. It's still a little choppy. Seems to be freezing.
How's that working? Is it freezing up still?
Let's see. It's choppy, but right now it's working.
Okay. All right. Well, I'm sorry about that. We got an internet issue.
It happened.
But hopefully, if you'd like, I can go ahead and get started.
Yeah. Right now it's smooth.
Okay. Great. Well, let me know if it's not smooth, and otherwise for now it's working great. Okay, good. Well, thank you, Peter. I apologize to everyone for the late start, but let's go ahead and get started. My name is Alon Shaya. I know Peter just did a little bit of an intro, and I am a self-proclaimed bread nerd. I love wheat. I love mills. I love all the things that happen, the magic that happens when flour and water and yeast meet. And so this is a huge honor for me to be a part of this and to talk bread. So what we're going to do today is we're going to make some pita bread on a big green egg, one of my favorite tools to use. I have a couple of them in different places around the country. My wife's mom has a place in Georgia. We have a big green egg there. My friend's house has a big green egg. I cook here all the time. And of course, I have one at my house as well.
Where are you from today, Alon?
I'm cooking actually today from my friend Chris's house. And this is his extra large big green egg. And we're in his backyard. And we're gonna do some things that I don't normally do on a big green egg. Typically, I like going low and slow on my big green egg, but today we're gonna go fast. And so I've set up the egg to where I put a bunch of coals in there and lit them up, and I open the top and I open the bottom, and I'm letting that airflow just go. Inside, I'm gonna open it nice and slow. I have a rack directly over the coals, and I have a pizza stone on top of that rack. So it is flaming hot in this thing. My dial is reading just over 500 degrees, but I think it's continuing to rise. And I'm gonna go ahead and get a few things started. So what we're gonna do is I'm gonna make arayas. Arayas is a Lebanese street food dish, really. And it's essentially pita that's stuffed with raw kofta meat, or essentially like a meatball mixture. And then once it's stuffed, it's grilled until the meat's just cooked through and the bread is super crispy and delicious. And then it's like dipped with tahini or served with a fresh tomato salad. You see it served all over Lebanon. You see it served all over Israel. And we're going to do one of those today. And I'm going to talk a little bit about the dough that I'm using as well. Here I have dough that I've made using a sourdough starter and using fresh milled wheat from a local bakery here in New Orleans that does a really great job called Bellegarde Bakery. And I think Grayson was one of the presenters for you guys too, correct?
Demo chef when we started the beat, which seems like years ago, but it was just a couple months ago when we got this going.
Yeah. Yep. So Grayson, has a beautiful operation called Bellegarde, and he really is my flour dealer. He's who I go to for all my wonderful fresh milled flour. This is turkey red wheat from Oklahoma. And again, there's natural starter in here. This dough is 2 days old now, so it's really begun to ferment, and I can smell some of that great sourdough flavor building up in it. And a pita, people, really sometimes get very intimidated by pita, but we're going to make a couple here, and I'm going to show you some tricks of when I make pita, kind of what I do to make sure that my pita doesn't turn into a pizza. So essentially, I want to take the dough, and I'm just going to very lightly flour it and pat it down. As you can see, I'm being very gentle with it. And our goal with the pita is to get it to rise and to get a pocket in the middle. So what we don't want to do is really like stick our fingers too much into the dough. I have some of this fresh milled flour here that I'm sprinkling on top. And it's about 350 degrees outside in New Orleans today. So the pita might even cook before I put it in the green egg, but I'm going to do my best. Let's see how it works. I'm going to take the dough, I'm going to lift it out of this little bin here. And again, just lightly patting it down. If I was going to make a pizza, I would put my fingers into it a little bit, start slapping it out, really kind of working on creating an even thin dough with a little bit of a crust there to form. But with pita, I'm looking essentially for a very flat layer and a nice thickness that will allow the pita, when it cooks in the green egg, to rise and give us a pocket. And those pockets should be thick. You want those pockets to soak up all the juices of whatever you're using that pita for, whether it's hummus or it's vinaigrette left over from a cucumber and tomato salad, or it's some type of delicious tahini spread. You want those walls to be nice and thick so that you get that absorption. So here I'm at 550 degrees now. I'm going to slowly open this, and I can see those coals are just burning away in there. I'm going to put the pita on the stone, and I'm essentially now just going to leave it. I'm going to close the top, and what that does is it's going to give us a little bit of convection. We're going to get some airflow. It's going to intensify the heat inside of the green egg a little bit, because when you want your pita to cook, you want heat not only from the bottom, but you also want heat coming from the top, so that you get as much heat going around the pita as quickly as possible, so that you're starting to really get the water in the dough to start steaming. And once that does, that's what gives you that rise. It's what gives you that pool inside of the dough. If you have a good protein level inside of your dough and your flour is fresh milled, and it's full of all these beautiful enzymes and living materials and the vitamins and minerals that come from the bran and the germ, all of that inside your dough is going to really strengthen your dough, especially also using some of that sourdough starter is going to give your dough a lot of strength. And that strength is so important when you're making pita bread, because you really want that dough to rise, and you want to see all of those pooling of the dough inside. And that comes from the strength. So the pita quickly turned golden, rose up, and is now, I flipped them over, and I'm just gonna cook them on the other side for a little bit longer. Since these are the first pitas that I'm cooking in here, they got dark pretty quickly. So one thing that we always do when we make pita bread at Saba restaurant in New Orleans is that we use the entire floor of our wood burning oven so that we're constantly tempering it and we don't have any hot spots kind of building up. So my next round of pita, I'm gonna put right back into that same spot here since I've just slightly tempered it, but you can see we got a nice pita here.
So they
Again,
puffed a little, but they didn't balloon. Is that correct?
they didn't balloon up too much, mostly because we're, in the green egg, you want to really try to get as much of that convection happening as possible. So closing it helps, but you're not going to get that same necessarily large balloon that you get out of a wood burning oven. But let's see, the second round, I'm going to take these now and I'm going to close the top. I put them back in that same spot, which has just been lightly tempered. And let's see if we can get those to rise up really nice. And I'm gonna stuff these with one of my family recipes, a dish that I grew up eating from my mother and my grandmother. And in Bulgaria, where my grandmother's from, they make kebabs, and it's essentially like a kofta. It's like a meatball, and it's ground lamb and all kinds of great spices. We're gonna mix those up, and we're going to stuff it in this pita. So they didn't balloon up, Peter, but you can see that we have a nice pocket forming here.
That's the key.
I'll bring that to you and show it to you a little bit closer. And here, because we're tempered, these ones are going to come out just even a little bit better. They're going to have a little bit more growth to them. You can see they're starting to balloon up. All that rise that's coming up. And, the first ones I had to kind of, I had to flip before they got too dark. But I'll show you the inside and you'll see why that strength from all that fresh milled flour is so important.
Alon, was that flour that you used 100% whole grain, or was it sifted or bolted?
It was sifted at about 50%, so that we had some really fine flour in there, and then we also had a lot of the bran and germ going in there as well.
I see.
So you can see here, we're not getting a huge balloon, but we are getting rise, and we're getting a really nice texture on the inside that's going to allow us to fill them with the lamb mixture. So I'm going to check these again.
Looks like, yeah, it seems like this time you had a more controlled bake on the second. It's like making pancakes. The first one.
It is, yeah. The first ones you put down, you're definitely going to get that initial heat off the stone. So it's going to be like hard and intense. And then the second time around, you definitely have a little bit more of a tempering going on. And I might even just do a third round. And always when we make our pizza, or when we make our pita dough at Saba, we, the first ones always need a little bit more attention. And as you're making them through the day, they tend to get better and better and better through the day. But here we have these guys a little bit better. And then our third round will also be great. Another tool that I like to use when making pita is a rolling pin, something that I would never use for making pizza dough, but I use it for pita because it just helps to kind of give that very even roll. and it allows for that pocket to grow and for nothing to kind of stop that pocket from happening. If the pizzaiolo that I trained with in Italy saw me ever using a rolling pin, he would have been very upset. But with pita bread, it is totally cool. And here, I'll show you kind of what we got going on, and you can see, I'll come a little closer. You can see all of that really great texture, that pool from the dough.
Yeah.
It's shiny. It has like a reflective look to it. And that's really because of the quality of the flour, the quality of the dough, of the starter, all kind of doing their parts.
It all the fermentation work came together, and
That's
plus
right.
you have a solid structure there, so it'll soak up the juices without falling apart.
And that's the big deal. I see a lot of times people will roll their pitas out a little bit too thin, and it'll be a very thin wall. And that's not necessarily the texture that's going to make it super delicious. Again, now on the third go, you can see it's cooking a little bit slower. We're getting a nice puff on them. They don't need to kind of puff up like a balloon. You know, when I do them in my home oven, I'll put on the broiler setting, and I'll put a pizza stone on the middle shelf. And in my home oven, I'll tend to get a really nice balloon, mostly because it has so much surround heat, you know, and here we're really focusing our heat from the bottom. But
it also seems like when they puff up and really balloon up, I've had the problem of the top part, the balloon is much thinner than the bottom part, and so it's not as symmetrical, or what's the word, even.
Yeah, that can happen. And again, the rolling pin and kind of rolling them a little bit thicker than you would normally expect to roll something out gives you kind of a little bit more of that even base.
Great.
So here we have our pitas. You can see they cook super fast. I mean, the whole thing just takes a couple of minutes. Meanwhile, I'll go ahead and make the filling. So I have ground lamb here, and my grandmother cooked with a ton of lamb. It was just always around in the house. And I'm just gonna, it's pretty fatty too. It's like a 70-30. We actually add a little bit of extra fat into the lamb to give it some more juiciness. Here, we're gonna lay our pitas out, let those cool. Meanwhile, I'm going to remove the stone so that we have a straight grill happening in our big green egg, because we want to now grill our Arias. So the stone's going to get lifted out. I'm going to put on these trusty
the heavy duty gloves.
And I'm just going to.
Goes right through. Huh?
I think these gloves might not be heavy duty enough. I think we're just going to go straight up towels. Yeah, that seemed.
That's a hot.
Yeah, this stone is very hot. So I'm going to go ahead and just lift it out the old-fashioned way. And now I have hot coals right over the grill. I'm going to let those go so that when I go to grill my Arias in a little bit, I'm going to be able to get really nice grill marks. Again, one of the things that I love about using the big green egg is that you can shift really quickly from this hot oven, essentially, to a grill, just like that. So let's talk about some secrets to my grandmother's recipe for kebabs. We have buttermilk, which is going to go in with the ground lamb. We have salt. We have pepper, cumin, paprika. I'm going to take some of the pita bread that I just cooked, and I'm going to cut a little bit of that up. And I'm going to add this diced bread to the filling, which will really help to kind of keep the filling very soft and moist and really just a very delicate texture, almost dumpling-like on the inside.
Kind of like
So I'm going to add
meatball trick, huh?
Yep, just like the meatball trick. I'm gonna add all that pita in there, and I figured, if we're doing a bread symposium, we better use bread in lots of different ways. So there you go. I have some cilantro here that I'm gonna chop up.
Cilantro, huh? Wow.
Yep, and some parsley.
By the way, I'm sure that our viewers are going to want to know, will you be able to share this recipe for us for our folder, our recipe folder?
Absolutely, absolutely.
Fantastic.
So I'm gonna stir all that together. And then I'm going to add really what is a couple of the secret ingredients to make a kofta super delicious. So when we talk about like meatball secrets and we add the bread, there's another secret to add, and that is milk powder, which milk powder is very, very absorbent. 1 gram of milk powder absorbs 40 grams of water. So when I add the milk powder in there, and I stir that around, that's going to essentially be our catch-all for any juice that's coming from the lamb as it's cooking. It's gonna trap all of that moisture before it comes out. We've all made sausages before, and we've, poked that casing and seen liquid just shoot up, right? Like 3-4 feet into the air. And the milk powder really does help with absorbing all of that, so it doesn't happen and it stays in the sausage or it stays in the meatball. And then the other secret ingredient is baking soda, which I'm going to add. And the baking soda gives the entire kofta mix really this bounce to it. The best Bulgarian kebabs or kofta have this great bounciness to it. And the baking soda helps with that. And that's the reason that we use buttermilk instead of regular milk, because the buttermilk is more acidic, and acid and baking soda work really well together. So the buttermilk really helps to activate the baking soda in the recipe.
Baking soda is kind of a misunderstood ingredient. I think a lot of people don't realize all the things that you can do with it. So aside from the fact that you can put in an open box in your refrigerator to absorb odors and things like that, but for using it in cooking, do you use one of the tricks that I was told by one of your big fans, Shai Farjan, is to put a little baking soda in with his garbanzo beans when he cooks.
Yeah, we definitely do that too. And the good thing about what that does is the baking soda really breaks down the pectin that's holding the skins onto the garbanzo beans. And so by doing that, you're able to get those skins off much easier, which essentially gives you a much smoother hummus.
That's a great trick.
Yep. There's a little bonus info for you guys. I was only going to give you the bread secrets today. I'm giving you hummus secrets too.
Everything we can from you while we have it.
Anytime. All right. So now I have the pitas here that I cooked. I'm going to take the kofta mixture and I'm going to stuff them in to the pita and essentially create this just like, raw meat stuffed pita. And now that we're going to cook them in the green egg, I want to kind of bring that temperature of the egg down now. I want to really start to not like have these glowing coals in there too much. I want to go for more of like a bake than I would for a char. And so I'm going to just I close the bottom and I close the top vent. And while we still have a lot of heat in there, it's going to start to kind of damper everything. And it's going to help us cook these arrayas in a way in which they won't burn up. You can see like in Lebanon or in Israel, there's kebabs being cooked everywhere, there's pita being cooked everywhere. And why not just marry the two and create this beautiful little snack that you can walk down the street, eat it out of a paper bag, and mix two things that we all love together. So that's all going to get
That's pretty amazing.
stuffed.
Thought of it. So in a way, there's kind of like the just crossing cultures a little bit of a quesadilla kind of quality to the concept.
Yeah, absolutely. Every culture has its own stuffed bread or stuffed dough. So check it out. You see these pitas that we just cooked. You see that texture in there. That is where all the good stuff happens. That's what's going to soak up all those juices. It's going to allow the kofta to really kind of embed itself into the pita. We don't want to overfill them because we want to be able to really cook everything all the way through. And I'm going to open the grill and we'll put these down. I'm going to put them here just around the edge, knowing that my middle is going to be very hot and the edge will be a little cooler. I'm going to close it and I'm just going to let that cook for a few minutes until everything is cooked all the way through.
Do you flatten them before you put them on the grill, or do they just flatten?
Yeah, I press it a little bit so that it cooks nice and even. And then we have to start thinking about what are we going to serve with these wonderful stuffed arrayas. So tahini is a very classic sauce that it's always a good idea to make tahini. It's never a bad idea. And here I have garlic that I have crushed and infused in lemon juice. I've pulled the garlic cloves out, and what that does is it gives the lemon juice a ton of flavor, of the garlic flavor, but none of the chunks of garlic. You get really just a very smooth garlic flavor. And I'm going to add some of that garlic lemon in there, a little bit of salt, and some water. And with tahini, you can see until you have the right amount of water, your tahini kind of seizes up and it looks really thick. So by adding the water, I'm actually kind of thinning it out and getting it to a point in which it's nice and drizzleable. Drizzleable is the word of the day, everybody. So
Not 3 times fast.
yes. So I'm going to add that water. You can see that tahini is now really gotten nice and smooth. And that's it. Just salt, tahini, water, lemon, and garlic. And I got this beautiful sauce here. And my friend Chris, like I said, I'm in his backyard here, has a beautiful garden. We have some chives here, some scallions, some rosemary, some beautiful banana peppers. I'll cut all that here from the garden. And we'll make a little salad to go with it as well. One thing that I love about Lebanese food is that there's always these beautiful fresh vegetables served alongside everything, all kinds of herbs. So I'm just going to chop all that up. Let's check on our arrayas and see if we want to give them a flip. Looking good. You can see super crispy. We might be running a touch on the high side here, but we're definitely going to have a nice char and a nice crunch to this pita. Close that up. With these types of temperatures, it doesn't take very long to cook.
Do you serve arrayas at the restaurant?
We have served it before, yeah. It's not currently on the menu, but it makes its appearances every once in a while. We have Safta in Denver and Saba in New Orleans, and Most recently, we opened a restaurant called Miss River at the Four Seasons Hotel here in New Orleans, and also the Chandelier Bar located in the hotel. And, you know, Arias will it'll make its appearance here and there. I think last we served it at Safta on the menu.
It seems like
So I'm just gonna season that with a little garlic lemon, a little extra virgin olive oil. And let's pull those Arias out. They're definitely done. So you see, we went from a pizza oven making the pita bread to a regular oven or to a grill in which we could grill these and get some really nice char. Let that meat really cook through. Here you can see the lamb is just beautifully cooked.
Wow.
Our bread is nice and super crispy.
Uh-huh.
We then cut these in quarters, set them up on the plate. These are just like the best little snacks. So great for like a dinner party. You got people coming over. You want to get them started with a little something. These guys are great. And you can build the Arias way ahead of time.
I was saying earlier that these are such perfect little handheld items that I would think they'd be a great street food. Is this something you see in vendors like in Lebanon or in Israel? You know, making
Absolutely. That's why these things exist, specifically for that. I'm going to take my fresh peppers and herbs here and just kind of drizzle that all over the top. And then take my tahini and drizzle that over the top. And these are also something that you can just kind of dip if you'd like. But that is them, all in the green egg pita, made on the pizza stone, then stuffed with lamb kofta, then grilled right over the coals. All happens. It's your one-stop shop for delicious, tasty food. I love the big green eggs. They really are just kind of I always tell people, I say that it's a way to feel like you're a super fancy, incredible chef or barbecue master in your own backyard, because the green eggs really do help to bring some of those incredible flavors around.
Yeah, and we're so pleased to have Big Green Egg as one of our sponsors for this symposium, and for sponsoring today's session with you, which has been great. I just wish I could be there right now, eating one of those.
You're definitely missing out on that. You can see perfectly cooked through.
I've got to run over now. I feel like I have to run over to Yafo Kitchen, which is near us, and he's making a chicken Arias there, and he just makes a whole bunch of them and keeps them, I guess, either in the freezer or the refrigerator, wherever. And so he pulls them out to order, so that it's all assembled, and then when someone orders it, he can just grill it off.
Yep. And I think, one of the keys to making something like this extra delicious, extra special, is using fresh milled wheat, is using sourdough based bread, is really, the bread is most of the dish. And so paying a lot of attention to the quality of the bread can take a dish that under normal circumstances is really good no matter what. It can really kind of take it to a whole nother level. Same thing with using locally raised lamb and dicing up pita bread to go inside versus just white bread, and fresh herbs from the garden. Just paying attention to all those levels of quality really make a big difference.
Yeah. What are some other traditional fillings besides lamb? I've seen the chicken one here in Charlotte.
Beef, turkey, chicken, all fair game. You could do it with shrimp if you wanted to. That would be really delicious, kind of like a shrimp toast. But but yeah, I mean, I think that anything in there, ground duck, ground venison, also way to go. Do it up.
Wow. So now, one of the questions that I'm thinking of, I'm not sure if anyone else would have posed this, but is in that short amount of time that it was in the egg, did the meat get cooked all the way through for people who are squeamish about eating sort of raw?
The meat is completely cooked. You can see here, it is 100% cooked perfectly.
Any time at
You
all?
know, the temperature in there is 600 degrees, and so it's cooking very, very quickly.
So those sauces are great. That
And
tahini sauce looks like it could be used for a lot of things.
the one thing that I really love about Arias is the texture where the bread meets the meat inside. You kind of get this like, you know, like when you have a really good pizza and that layer like right under the cheese and right above the bottom of the pizza, you have that kind of like gooey, delicious, doughy situation happening. That is essentially happening all inside of an Arias. So with the richness of the meat and the tahini and all the vegetables that we put on top, like the char on the pita is actually really, really pleasant with it. I think it probably could have been a little cooler, the green egg, to get a little bit more, a little bit less char, but the char doesn't taste burned at all. It really tastes like intense flavor, just like you would get from a great pizza that had char all around the top.
A little smoky flavor to it.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to throw the door open for anyone who would like to ask Alon any questions. Feel free to use the Q&A if you can, so that we can maybe all see them, and I'll pass them on to Alon if you have any questions from the field. We'll say. Not seeing anything yet. I'm going to put my glasses on so I can read them.
It's just one of those dishes that never gets old, and it's always something that you can kind of keep in your back pocket. Pita bread just generally is something that I love making, either on the green egg or at home in my oven. It's always a lot of fun, and it always opens up all kinds of opportunities to serve it with great things or fill it. You can also stuff them with bananas and salted caramel and melted chocolate, and you have a delicious dessert. So pita is just all around an incredible vessel.
Well, Bernie wants to know, what kind of charcoal do you prefer to use?
Well, I use Big Green Egg hardwood charcoal. So I like it because it's really thick and it doesn't have any lighter fluid added to it or anything in there that is unnatural. And so it's very pure. And sometimes if I'm cooking things low and slow, I can fill the green egg with charcoal and I can use it 3 or 4 times, just by managing the heat and closing it off when I'm done, and the coal stays there and it cools down, and then it relights very easily for the next cook.
The lump charcoal is what you use as opposed to briquettes and things like that.
Yeah,
I think it feels like, years ago when I grew up, everybody's using briquettes because that was the thing. But the last couple of years, it feels like the world, for the most part, at least the people that I think are part of this community, tend to be in the lump charcoal, real charcoal world, so to speak.
Yeah, definitely.
Somebody wants to know, what type of paprika did you use?
I used a sweet paprika. I get my spices from Lior in New York at La Boite. And he always brings in really incredible spices. So very serious about using fresh spices that have a lot of flavor, haven't been sitting on a shelf for a while. So I always order my spices direct. They come to my house or they come to the restaurant in boxes, and they're always super delicious.
So, but sweet paprika as opposed to hot paprika.
Sweet, yep.
Okay, so that answer. Anybody else have any questions? We said another charcoal question, but it's the same question as a lump or briquette, and the answer is lump. So, and I think because not everybody might have the green egg, they may want to try making these in their home oven, but if they have the green egg, that wherever can get the green egg, they know they can get also the particular
Yeah.
chocolate that they package.
For sure.
But they may not have
It's
that.
working.
Okay. Well, I think we're getting kind of close to the end of the hour, so I'm just going to hold this open for just another minute or two for any last minute questions. Otherwise, what we'll do is we'll reconvene for the after party in the VIP lounge in just a minute. But let me see if I know that there's a couple of things that I've fallen in love with from the sort of the Middle Eastern palette of foods, and I think I'm not sure if they all have the same name, whether in Lebanon or Israel or other places, if they call them something different. But one is something called toum, Toum.
Yeah. Toum is a garlic and oil puree, essentially, and it's like raw garlic, so it's super intense, and it's a really delicious, just kind of, dip or spread to use with pita, falafel, anything fried, kibbeh. It's really good with as well.
And is it just how's it? It's fluffed up. Is it fluffed up just with air, or is it whipped?
It's like whipped in a blender. Yeah. So, it's just raw garlic and oil until it emulsifies with a little bit of water, and it emulsifies, and the oil just kind of like whips into it.
It's amazing. They at our local Lebanese restaurant that we love, they just call it garlic sauce, but
right.
But they told us that it's called, to them it's known as toum.
Toum. Yep.
And then what's the other thing? What the chopped peppers and parsley garnish? It's kind of spicy.
Zhoug.
Yeah, Zhoug.
Zhoug. Yep. Zhoug. It's a Yemenite. That's a Yemenite condiment, and it's usually parsley, cilantro, olive oil, garlic, and then also a little bit of they'll put a little bit of clove in there to give it these warm flavors, which is really delicious. And I like to use serrano peppers, but you could also use jalapeno or any type of spicy pepper.
Yeah, it's a totally addictive garnish.
Yep.
Whenever I can get it. Well, I think we may as well carry this on more informally where people can join us in the room.
Okay, great.
So why don't we just say thank you for all of you who are watching, and those who are not here today but will be watching it on the archive later. Thank you, and know that when you're in New Orleans, the restaurant is called
Saba.
Saba.
Saba. Yep, it means grandfather in Hebrew. Saba.
And then in Denver, it's called
Safta.
Safta.
Safta. Safta, which means grandmother in Hebrew. So it's the grandparents of our company.
And you say you have a third restaurant coming, or is?
Yeah, we just opened Mist River last week at the Four Seasons in New Orleans, as well as the Chandelier Bar, also located in the Four Seasons.
What kind of food, or is it you doing something different?
Grand Louisiana dining.
Oh, really?
So yeah. All the things you love about Louisiana food coming to life.
Well, can't wait to get to New Orleans, that's for sure. Alon, thank you so much for doing all the work you put into making it happen. And I don't know, I feel like I got to run down there and get a bite of that Oreas.
Please do. We'd love that.
All right, so you and I are going to log out of this webinar. Everybody else can just navigate over to the VIP lounge, and we'll reconvene in 3 or 4 minutes, and we'll chat informally. And then you get
see you there.
Regulars.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Thanks so much. Thank you to our team behind the scenes. Our event technical and production partners, Ganoid Communications, including our producer, Gurmit Singh, and his team, Jita Gajaria, Gagandeep Singh, and Jaydev Kashari. Thanks also to Ted Nelson and Lael Fretzel of our creative and marketing team at Gumbo Marketing, and the many folks at Johnson & Wales University who supported me throughout this event. My executive assistant, Sarah Standifer, communications director, Melinda Law, Chancellor Mim Rooney, Charlotte Campus President Cheryl Richards, and our executive team leaders, deans, and faculty, Maureen Dumas, Michael Schrader, Michelle Nicholas, Mark Norman, Brent Steyerwalt, Laurie Heimbach, Jerry Lanuza, Amy Felder, Harry Paymiller, Richard Miskovich, and many, many others. Thank you all.